Welcome back to Five on Fridays. Excited for another episode. We are bringing back a very good friend of the program, Rashad Davis from EAP. Probably the second most popular person on this show, aside from myself. We have you on a ton of times, but it's because you're so good at what you do, and we appreciate your input every single time. So I'll start here. Rashad, how are you? How's it going? What's new in your world?
I'm good, man. I appreciate you having me back. It's a pleasure to be on Five on Fridays. New in my world, man. I'm a new dad of a 4-month-old now. He's going strong and learning his own little personality already. So he does not like his little baby body though, you know. So we're working around that.
Yes, absolutely. And I think I mentioned it a couple episodes ago. I have a 6-month-old, so we're both in the new dad. We both just celebrated our first Father's Day. So things are good in our respective houses, which we love to see. Everyone is happy and healthy. All right, so we are here today, Rashad. We are going to talk about critical incidents. And when we came together and thought about this conversation, obviously there's a lot going on in the world around the city of Columbus community that we live and work and play. And we really kind of wanted to just have an open dialogue and talk about what exactly a critical incident is, why it's important, and what we can kind of do to get ourselves through some of these difficult things that we hear on the news, some of these difficult emotions that we feel. So we'll start there, Rashad. What exactly is a critical incident, and why is it so important for us to stay informed?
So the World Health Organization describes a critical incident as an event out of the range of normal experience. Okay, so we're talking about something that is sudden and unexpected, and it could possibly involve the perception of a threat to your life. It could include elements of physical and emotional loss. Now, most people would be severely shaken by a critical incident, but are likely to recover from its impact with appropriate support. So here in Columbus, our frontline staff, such as those who work in healthcare, emergency, military, law enforcement, rescue, or others who operate in similar industries within that sector, are engaged in high-risk activities, right? And are actively exposed to these stresses in their line of work. But there are other jobs that are assuming risk due to being open to the public, like frontline staff at recreation centers, right? Who work directly with visitors from the surrounding communities. They too could one day be an observer or survivor of a critical incident, either with a child, coworker, or a visitor. And research tells us that in past years, first responders have witnessed over 188 critical incidents, right, over the course of their career, while the average citizen may only experience 2 to 3. But in recent years, those averages for both first responders and the average City of Columbus employee has seen a spike due to the increase in numbers of actor-shooter situations and other forms of violence where mass numbers of citizens congregate. So it's important for both first responders and the community to know what signs to look for after being exposed to and being a survivor of a critical incident.
Yes, that makes a lot of sense, and I'm glad we're having this conversation. What can our first responders or the average City of Columbus employee expect to experience after a critical incident if they've observed one?
So here's where understanding our resilience is going to be extremely important. Everyone doesn't respond to critical incidents in the same way. Some people may not experience any adverse effects at all. Some may bounce back immediately and be just fine going back to work or engaging in normal activities specific to their lifestyle. Others may experience feeling anxious, sad, or angry, trouble concentrating or sleeping, continually thinking about what happened. You may feel intense fear, hopelessness, horror, and completely out of control. In more severe cases, we may see some self-isolation from friends and family, giving away possessions, neglecting appearance and hygiene, or just overall well-being. You may see somebody acting out of character or reckless on the job, right? You may see some sudden, unexplained improvement in mood after being withdrawn, a very dangerous sign as other people may have come to terms with deaths that they may have been privy to. You may hear talks of suicide or death, or even glorifying death. Direct verbal cues, I wish I wasn't here, I wish I was gone. So these are fundamentally some things just for us to be looking for. This by no means is an exhaustive list, but this is just something to kind of pique your interest when you're talking with someone who has been exposed to a critical incident, whether it's been an observer or a survivor, or if you yourself has been exposed to a critical incident.
Yeah. No, that makes a lot of sense. Man, this is such a heavy topic. I'm really glad we're getting into it. What steps should someone take to get help if they start to experience some of the symptoms you just kind of outlined? And when will someone know when it's time to act?
So that's a really great question. Expect the incident to bother you. Okay, that's just something that you have to expect in the aftermath of a critical incident. Expect to maybe feel some guilt, right? And so be gentle with yourself. Remind yourself that your reactions are very normal and learn as much as you can about acute stress reaction. Get plenty of sleep and rest. Spend as much time as you can with trusted friends and family, colleagues. Talk with them about the event. Talk about your immediate reactions as the incident unfolded. As much as possible, try to follow your routine and eat a balanced diet. This is very important. So this is fuel for your body. It's going to be fuel for your mind as well. Practice some stress management and relaxation techniques. So maybe do some physical activities, play some music, maybe read. Attend group debriefings if you can, and informational update meetings unless these deeply disturb you and you just can't handle it sitting in that environment. But this may dissipate over time, so you may be ready at some point, but maybe just not today. Minimize the use of alcohol, nicotine, caffeine, any other recreational drugs or sugar. That's going to be really, really important. And ultimately, visit with a mental health professional if you feel like you are overwhelmed to the point of your coping capacity not being effective for you anymore. It's probably a good time to go meet with someone, sit down, and kind of talk these things through.
Yeah, really, really useful. I definitely think that this is something that is more prevalent, and you can correct me if I'm wrong. It's more prevalent than I think maybe the common person even understands, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the reason why this conversation is so important is because typically when we hear about critical incidents, it is first responders who first come to mind because they see these things over and over from day to day as they go into their professional lives. But moreover, in the past years, we've seen these critical incidents intersect with first responders, but also the greater community, right? And we see those community members also intersecting with law enforcement when it comes to rescue, when it comes to responding appropriately in the aftermath of maybe some of those active shooter situations. So I think it's important for the greater community, the average City of Columbus employee, their family members to understand what some of these things look like for those first responders, but then also for the first responders who have not maybe sought help for some of those symptoms that we just talked about over the past years, for them to realize that there is help out there. There is something going on if you have these symptoms persisting for an extended period of time. It's time to really reach out and say, hey, I really need to sit down. I need to talk with someone about this and get that help that you need.
Yeah, no, that makes total sense. Okay, as we wrap this conversation up, there's obviously so much more we can dive into. We wanted to kind of keep this brief, be sort of an introduction of sorts. What are the final thoughts that you have for someone who is worried about possibly being involved in a critical incident?
So this can be really, really tricky. So it's important to kind of understand where your resiliency is, right? So understanding that resiliency meter that you have. Now, it's almost impossible to prepare yourself for such events. But there are things that you can do to improve your resilience, and in doing so, be able to think a little more clearly if you would have to observe or survive a critical incident. Firstly, limit your consumption of news. We live in a society where the news is available to us 24 hours a day via television, radio, internet. The constant replay of news stories about a disaster, a traumatic event, critical incident can increase our stress and our anxiety and make some people relive the event over and over. And we call this re-traumatizing the self. Okay, reduce that amount of news that you watch or listen to, and know when to ask for help. Signs of stress can be normal. Short-term reactions to any life's unexpected events, very, very normal. It's important to pay attention to what's going on with you or with someone you care about, because what may seem like everyday stress can actually be depression, including thoughts of suicide. It could be anxiety. There could be some alcohol or drug use going on or drug abuse. So do some self-assessment when you feel that it's appropriate. And one of those things that you can utilize to do that self-assessment is looking into Stress Management Society's individual stress test. You can Google this, you can look it up. It's a great test to have on hand. Just click the link and follow the instructions. And you can also reach out to NAMI, the National Alliance for Mental Illness, and look at what local opportunities and resources they have available in your area.
I really, really like that. The test, especially the ability to go out there and sort of get a barometer for yourself of where you are and sort of almost have an anchor to reality of, am I as stressed as I think I am? Am I as scared as I think I am? Or am I just having a moment? I think that can be really powerful and a great sort of self-assessment tool. So I really appreciate you sharing that, Rashad.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me again, Brandon.
Yep, absolutely. So Rashad, obviously people can get a hold of you guys at EAP. You reference NAMI, all of these other things. We're going going to try to add in the description of the video. Obviously, we can link you up through the Benefits and Wellness program as well with EAP and Rashad's team. So just let us know how we can be of service and how we can help. It is a very heavy topic, and we just want to make sure people understand that we are there are resources, and that we're here to help. So Rashad, thank you so much again, as always, my friend, for jumping on and having these conversations with us. We will obviously bring you back again for other things in the future, but until the next time, take care of yourself, and thank you everyone for watching.